My sister's wedding spirals when my ex-friend crashes the ceremony, threatening to expose her fiancé's past betrayal. As hidden resentments and blackmail surface, family lies unravel, forcing us to face emotional revenge and rebuild trust in life. Parked under the giant oak in the garden, stomach twisting like I'd just swallowed a fistful of cicada shells. My name's Alex Carter, I'm 29, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Today, I'm here for my older sister Lily's wedding, and I can't remember the last time I felt this alive, and this nervous, at the same moment. The sun's bleaching everything gold, and laughter bubbles through the white marquee where her friends are already sipping champagne, adjusting flowers, and taking pictures. I take a breath and step out of the car, forcing myself to smile. This should be a day of celebration, of family and joy. But before I even reach the entrance, I see him. He's leaning against a wrought iron railing on the edge of the reception area, shoulders slightly hunched, as if hugging an invisible burden. Dark hair slicked back, pale blue eyes scanning each face with unnerving familiarity. I freeze halfway down the stone path, heart pounding. Who is this guy? Linen suits and seersucker jackets drift past, but none of these people seem to know him. He doesn't belong. The velvet grass carries the scent of magnolias and roses, but all I can register is the thud of my pulse as I watch him tuck something into his jacket pocket. Something white. I swallow, brush off the sensation as nerves, and move forward. Lily sees me first, pure white gown glowing in the afternoon light. She's laughing, eyes half closed with happiness, and she flies across the lawn like she always did when she was a kid. "Alex!" she exclaims, voice bright. "You made it." She throws her arms around me, pressing her warm cheek against mine. I can't help but hug her back. Her dress smells like jasmine and silk, and I can almost forget the stranger at the edge of the party for a moment. "Of course I did," I say, voice a fraction too loud. "I wouldn't miss this for the world." She steps back and smooths my hair, her grin as radiant as a star. "I'm so glad you're here. Daniel's been a wreck, but it'll be perfect once we get going." She nods toward a knot of bridesmaids fussing over bouquets. They wave at me, and I wave back, but my eyes dart automatically to that corner of the garden. He's still there, fingering something in his hand. I follow Lily toward the wedding planner, a tall woman in a crisp navy dress holding a clipboard. She glances at me and offers a tight smile. "Alex, hello. Lily told me you'd be helping out today." Her eyes flick to the edge of the lawn, then back to her notes. "Everything on schedule. We're just waiting on final seating charts." She doesn't notice the stranger. I want to point him out, but I can't ruin Lily's moment. Instead, I force myself to focus on the clipboard. "I can help," I say, trying to sound casual, glancing sideways. "Just tell me what to do." The planner gives me a short nod and hands me a stack of programs. Escort guests to their seats once they arrive, and keep an eye on timing. Dinner's set for 6. She's already juggling 10 tasks in her head. I insert myself next to her like another limb. As I copy the seating chart onto a clipboard of my own, I catch a glimpse of the man slipping away from the lantern-lit path into the rose garden. He leaves behind something on a small round table, white paper, crumpled and half-hidden under a vase of peonies. My breath catches. I inch closer, careful to stay out of sight of anyone I know. When I reach the table, I see an RSVP card, edges creased, addressed not to Lily and Daniel, but to M. Harris. Nobody at our family table knows anyone by that name. The ink is smudged in one corner as though it was shoved into someone's pocket in a hurry. I pick it up, fingertips trembling, and study the elegant script. "M. Harris. Who the hell are you?" Heart hammering. I fold the card and tuck it into my pocket, sliding my hand over it like a talisman. I turn my head to look back at the rose arch where the stranger stood. But he's gone, disappearing behind hedges like smoke. In the marquee, a string quartet strikes up a soft tune. Guests drift in, greeting each other, oblivious to the storm swirling at the garden's edge. My chest tightens. Lily's perfect day feels suddenly fragile, as though someone is about to blow out her candlelit happiness before the cake is even cut. I straighten my shoulders, tuck my breath down, step back toward the planner. The sun's still shining, but somewhere in the shadows of the garden, something dark has begun to stir. I felt sweat bead at my temples as the scent of honeysuckle drifted on the breeze, mingling with the distant sound of plates clinking and polite laughter. I'd promised myself I'd be calm, just an usher, a spectator at my sister's big day, but that RSVP card burned in my pocket like a warning flare. My name's Alex Carter, 29, and I live just south of Charleston, but right now, I felt like an outsider at my own sister's wedding. I paced behind the catering tent, where the bridesmaids flitted around, adjusting linens and rehearsing small talk. Every so often, I stole a glance at the marquee entrance, half expecting to see that stranger, Marcus Harris, reappear. Then a memory flashed through my mind, slamming textbooks on a classroom desk in high school, hearing the name Marcus Harris whispered among juniors like he was already a legend. Lily had always talked about Marcus as though he were family. Childhood friend, next door, neighbor until Marcus's parents moved away. I dismissed him as harmless nostalgia until now. I heard Lily's voice before I saw her, soft and bright. "Alex, are you all right?" She brushed past a bridesmaid who nearly knocked over a tray of champagne flutes. She placed her hand on my arm and I felt my breath hitch. "You look tense. Is something wrong?" I shook my head, swallowing hard. "No, just making sure everything's perfect." I nodded toward the edge of the garden. "Have you seen that guy? He was here earlier." Lily rolled her eyes, lips curling into a half smile. "Alex, I swear you're overthinking it. You know everyone who's invited. There's no Marcus here. He wouldn't show up uninvited." She tucked a stray curl behind her ear, glancing at the invitations stacked on a folding table. "Daniel and I double-checked the guest list yesterday. Someone's not on it, they don't come in." Her confidence was comforting until a flicker of doubt settled in my chest. I forced a weak smile. "Okay, maybe I'm just jittery." I put a hand on her shoulder, wanting to believe her, but the RSVP card's name, M. Harris, had me seeing shadows. Lily squeezed my shoulder and turned back toward the marquee. "Go help the ushers, please. Find Aunt Gloria and put her in seat 28. With that, she whisked away, leaving me alone by the catering tent. I walked over to where a bridesmaid stood clutching a tray of cookies, her eyes darting as though she'd seen a ghost. She looked no older than 22, her hair pinned up, wedding makeup just beginning to melt under the afternoon sun. I approached her quietly. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice low. "Did you see that man by the roses earlier? Dark hair, blue eyes, looked out of place." She swallowed, pressing a finger to her lips before handing a cookie to a passing guest. And they moved on. She looked around, then leaned in. "You mean Marcus Harris?" My heart stalled. "Marcus Harris," I echoed under my breath. "As in old friend of Lily's?" She nodded, eyes wide. "Yes, he's here. I saw him slip behind the photo booth a while ago. I tried to stop him, but he looked at me like I was a mouse. He said, 'Tell your sister I'm here.' Then he vanished into the crowd." I felt bile rise, memories fracturing in my mind. I'd heard the rumor. Lily and Daniel had broken Marcus's heart back in college. Daniel had convinced Lily to invest in his startup idea, an app for student networking, only to take the concept, launch it without Marcus, and pocket the profits. Lily, I'd always thought she was innocent, unaware. But rumor had it she'd known more than she let on and chosen Daniel. The idea gnawed me. If Lily had chosen that fiancé over Marcus, Marcus had every reason to hate them both. "Thank you," I said, voice tight. "You're sure it was him?" I reached for the RSVP card in my pocket, feeling its crumpled edge. She nodded again, swallowing. I thought it was some prank, but when he left that card under the peonies, I knew it wasn't good. He cursed at me under his breath, told me to stay out of his business." She glanced toward the garden. "Be careful, I've seen anger, and that was it." My mind spun. Lily's laughter earlier, her insistence that Marcus would never come uninvited, now felt fragile, like a paper umbrella ready to collapse. I clenched my fists, picturing Marcus's pale blue eyes, calculating. I knew enough about Marcus's anger. Stories of a promising young entrepreneur ruined by greed and betrayal, forced to drop out of college, his reputation in pieces. Lily and Daniel had moved on. Marcus had disappeared. Until today. My chest tightened with guilt. As Lily's brother, I should have warned her sooner. But I doubted my own memory, convinced myself it was over. Now I had to face the fact that Marcus was here, and he wasn't just a stranger. He was a living weapon aimed straight at my sister's heart. I slipped away from the tent, moving toward the photo booth area where guests were laughing over props. Giant glasses, feather boas, silly hats. The volume of conversation made it easy to blend in. I walked behind the booth and peered around, heart pounding. No Marcus. Just the photo attendant adjusting the shutter speed. Steam rose from my palms. I'd almost touched Lily's perfect day, swallowed, backing away quietly, and scanned the main garden path. The archway where Lily would walk down the aisle in 30 minutes. The crowd of guests waiting, primping, oblivious to the storm creeping upon them. I hesitated. Should I find Lily and tell her what I know? She'd brush me off again, insisting Marcus was dead in the water. But what if Marcus had already planted seeds of doubt, secrets buried deep in Lily's past? A memory surfaced. Lily, 17, lying in bed, tears soaking her pillow after a fight with Marcus. I remember her saying she'd chosen Daniel's stability over Marcus's dreams. I remember Marcus storming away, vowing never to let them forget. And now he was here. I swallowed, watched the clock tick closer to 3 o'clock ceremony time. My pulse throbbed as I considered my next move. I needed evidence, confirmation that Marcus truly planned something that could shatter Lily's life. But all I had was a name on a crumpled card, and a bridesmaid's terrified affirmation. I took a deep breath, fingers trembling. I needed to confront Marcus before the vows started, before it was too late. But where would I find him? And if I did, could I talk him down? Or was Marcus already beyond reason? I straightened my shoulders, took a step toward the rose garden, and felt the weight of the wedding planner's clipboard slip off my back. Every guest seemed like a potential obstacle or witness, but I couldn't wait. Lily's day was slipping onto a knife's edge. With my heart hammering, I turned into the rose garden path, determined to find Marcus Harris, wherever he hid, and uncover his next move. Because if I didn't act now, Lily's perfect day would become the day everything broke. I nearly stumbled over a folding chair as I rounded the corner of the rose garden, breath ragged and heart hammering. I'd been so sure I'd catch Marcus red-handed, but the petals and thorny vines had swallowed him whole. I shook my head, trying to steady myself, every nerve on edge. If Lily only knew what was hiding in these bushes, she wouldn't be thinking about bouquets or seating charts, she'd be running. I crept back toward the edge of the reception, mind racing. I spotted Daniel striding across the lawn in crisp slacks and a light gray vest, adjusting his cufflinks as if nothing in the world could unsettle him. He looked everything a groom should be, confident, excited, ready. I hesitated, torn between cutting past him to reach the photo booth or slipping away to regroup. But my feet carried me straight into his path. "Alex," Daniel said, grinning, when he saw me. "Hey, brother, you okay?" He reached out to clap my shoulder, but I flinched, startled. "You're looking a little pale, too many nerves?" He glanced toward where Lily was practicing her walk, laughing with her bridesmaids. The sunlight caught her veil, turning it into something almost celestial. "Fine," I said, swallowing hard. "Just trying to keep everything on schedule." I didn't elaborate, how could I? How do you tell someone their past is stalking them like a vulture? Daniel nodded, oblivious to more than just my worry. "Our vows rehearsal starts in 10, he said, glancing toward the archway. "You should see her. Lily looks like a dream. Can you believe she picked me?" Daniel's pride was palpable, like a warm wave that almost made me forget what was happening. Almost. "Yeah," I muttered, wrenching my attention back. "That's great." Daniel checked his watch, straightened the knot on his tie, and waved before walking off toward the groomsmen's lounge. Relief and frustration surged at once. He was completely blind to Marcus's presence, Marcus waiting somewhere nearby with a vendetta. I clenched my fists, teeth grinding. I needed to find Marcus myself, but Daniel's interference had slowed me down. I slipped away and made my way to the photo booth area, where a line of wooden crates held silly props, oversized sunglasses, plastic mustaches, feather boas. The booth itself was empty, camera lens facing the wall, ready for the first disruption of the ceremony. I crouched behind the stack of crates, peering through a crack. There he was, Marcus Harris, grinning, fingering a pair of giant novelty glasses. His eyes flicked to Lily and Daniel rehearsing their lines beneath the arbor. Lily's face was soft with love. Daniel stumbled over a word, and she giggled, brushing a stray curl from her face. Marcus's grin widened, expression more cold than amused. He lifted his phone from his pocket and snapped a photo of them, tucking the phone back so smoothly it looked rehearsed. I pressed back against the crates, invisible, watching him watch them. Something in his posture twisted my gut. This was no mere intrusion. This was premeditated. I fought the urge to rush in, smack the glasses from his hand, tell him everything he needed to back off. But I knew if I moved too quickly, he'd slip away like smoke again. I tore my gaze away and exhaled slowly, trying to calm the storm in my chest. But calm was impossible. Every memory of Marcus's rage, night-long phone calls, threats, nights Lily slept with tears on her pillow flooded back. I thought about texting Lily, telling her to cancel the ceremony, run away. She'd never forgive me for the panic I'd cause. She'd think I was exaggerating. Then again, if I kept quiet, Marcus could humiliate her on her own wedding day. That was unbearable. I realized my phone buzzed in my pocket. I dug it out, heart thudding. Unknown number. I hesitated. Could it be Lily asking if I was okay? A text from Daniel. But the moment I unlocked it, my blood ran cold. The message read, "Remember Blockberry Drive 2004? Just me and you. Lily cried for hours after you told her I wasn't good enough. Tell her the truth about who he really is, or everyone pays." I rewound that memory. 7 years old, backyard sleepover, Marcus's messy hair and hopeful smile as he showed Lily the model rocket he built. Lily told him she loved it but couldn't leave for his science fair because Daniel's big sister needed a date for prom. Back then, I thought it was childish jealousy. Now I felt Marcus's voice in that text, cold and final. I dropped to one knee on the grass, pressing my palm to the earth. A low hum of conversation drifted over the lawn, 2 aunts discussing table settings, a cousin making fun of how high the cake tiers were. But those voices felt distant, as though filtered through water. My mind churned. Marcus had proof, something strong enough to destroy the wedding. Maybe he'd hacked Daniel's emails. Maybe he had video or recordings. I hadn't seen any of it, but the fact that he knew that memory, knew to mention that exact night, meant he was closer than I ever imagined. I slid my phone back into my pocket and pushed myself up. The sun was dipping lower, turning the garden's lights to long, reaching shadows. I thought of Lily, practicing her I do while her brother knelt on grass, torn between loyalty and love. I thought about the vows she would say in minutes, words of faith and devotion, and about how everything could explode if Marcus chose to. I scanned the marquee entrance, guests trickling in, pausing for programs, smiling at one another. None of them knew what lurked behind the pleated curtains and satin bows. Daniel would walk Lily down that aisle in 30 minutes, completely unaware his past was stomping toward them, ready to rip the veil off their lives. And me, stuck in the middle, had to decide if I'd confront Marcus directly or warn Lily and risk shattering her hope. A cold knot tightened in my chest as I took a step toward the garden path. I had the text in my pocket like a ticking bomb. The breeze carried the sound of hooves. Horses from a neighbor's farm wandering too close, clopping against the gravel. I shook my head, blinking back panic. I couldn't let this day turn into a nightmare. I had to act. But what could I do against Marcus's fury? I tightened my grip on the phone, feeling the weight of every memory he held against us. I started walking back toward the tents, mind racing with possible plans. Go to Lily now, drag her away, threaten Marcus, beg Daniel to postpone, find and delete whatever evidence he had. None of it felt enough. None of it felt like it would stop Marcus's silent war. My feet carried me forward through the rows of white chairs, every step echoing with doubt. I clenched my jaw as I approached the buffet tables, the scent of roasted chicken and lemon thyme cutting through the tension in my lungs. I needed to clear my head before I made a mistake. Somewhere nearby, Marcus was smiling at the chaos he'd set in motion, and I still hadn't confronted him. I steadied my breath and lifted my head, eyes locked on the marquee entrance, where Lily, radiant and vulnerable, would soon make her entrance. The phone buzzed again. I paused, gloved in midday sun, and pulled it out once more. Another message. "Time's almost up, Alex. Decide fast." My heart lurched. I was a prisoner of this threat, and the vows were only minutes away. Should I risk telling Lily everything now, shattering her moment, or should I fight Marcus alone, holding onto the facade of a perfect day? I felt the weight of my sister's future on my shoulders, and knew that whichever choice I made, there'd be no going back. I felt the heat of the sun shift as I stepped into the white linen tent where tables were laid for a pre-ceremony luncheon. The long wooden tables were covered in cream-colored cloth, topped with crystal glasses and delicate china plates. Guests were already seated, murmuring in anticipation of the ceremony. My heart pounded in my ears, and my hands shook as I reached into my pocket for a prayer card. Instead, I found a crumpled note, edges soft and worn, as though it had been rolled into a tight ball and stuffed deep in someone's pocket. I straightened it out with trembling fingers. In messy black ink, 4 words stared back at me. "Tell her the truth or everyone pays." My breath caught and the world tilted. I pressed my back against the tent's sheer wall, feeling the cool fabric against my sweating skin. Every person here, my sister, the bride, my future brother-in-law, the groom, our family was moments away from bliss, and I held the bomb. A distant laugh echoed as Aunt Gloria, in her mint-green dress, told a story about Lily's childhood antics. The memory stung. Lily, 5, determined to help her father build a treehouse, covered head to toe in wood chips. That memory felt like a lifetime ago. Now, Lily was 19 again, radiant, armored only by a white dress and the illusion of safety. I shoved the note into my pocket and took a shaky step toward the groomsmen's lounge. Behind a linen screen, white folding chairs formed a semicircle around a small table where Daniel and his friends, groomsmen in matching navy suits, were joking and pouring glasses of iced tea. Daniel stood near the center, adjusting his boutonniere. He laughed at something one of his friends said, unaware of the note burning a hole in my pocket. I took a deep breath and stormed in. All eyes turned to me. "Daniel," I said, voice low and urgent. "We need to talk now." He blinked, confusion flickering across his face. "Alex, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." He set down his iced tea and gestured toward an empty chair. The other groomsmen exchanged glances. "I'm not joking," I said. I met his eyes. "Marcus Harris is here." Daniel's smile froze, replaced by a look of denial. His jaw tightened. "Marcus who?" "Marcus Harris, your old college friend." I forced myself to speak clearly. "He's been sending me texts and notes. He's threatening to expose something about you stealing his startup idea and about Lily. He has a note that says, 'Tell her the truth or everyone pays.'" Daniel's face drained of color. He stammered, "Alex, you're being ridiculous. No one's seen him. I checked the guest list myself. Do you have proof?" He leaned forward, voice rising. "Because right now this sounds like paranoia." "I have his messages," I said, pulling out my phone. I tapped the screen, but my fingers shook too much to show him the text easily. He snatched the phone, glancing at the screen. His face hardened as he read. "Remember Blackberry Drive 2004. Just me and you. Lily cried for hours. Tell her the truth about who he really is or everyone pays." Daniel's hand twitched around my phone and I snatched it back. "You see this? He knows. He's here." My voice cracked as I added, "And he's already approached Lily's grandmother." Daniel threw his head back, exasperated. "He's lying. Marcus hasn't lived here in years. He can't simply walk in." He pointed toward the tent flap. "She's in there, enjoying lunch. I'm not about to start slandering myself or causing a scene without evidence." I felt tears sting my eyes. But what if he does have evidence? Lily doesn't know the full story. She thinks you two were just kids and it's ancient history. She doesn't know you took his work, led her on, and left him with nothing. If she finds out on her wedding day, it will ruin her. Daniel rubbed his forehead, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Alex, stop," I made. "Mistakes, yes, but I apologized. Lily forgave me." Marcus moved on. "This is over. I can't believe you're feeding a ghost story on my wedding day." Anger and desperation collided in my chest. "Ghost story? He's real, Daniel. I saw him in the rose garden. I saw him messing with the photo booth. He slipped away, but he's here. You have to believe me." He shook his head, furious. "Fine. If it makes you feel better, go look for him and bring me proof. Otherwise, enough." I wanted to slam my fist so badly, but I forced myself to nod, voice hollow. Okay. I turned and nearly ran from the lounge, chest aching. Daniel's friends watched me go, confusion and pity in their eyes. Stepping back into the sunlight, I scanned the crowd lining the tables under the tent. Laughter hovered like bubbles waiting to burst. I pivoted, noticing Lily's grandmother seated at the far end, Miss Alina's silver hair gleaming under the tent lights, her back ramrod straight as she dabbed at a pearl necklace. My gaze flicked to Marcus, standing behind her with his phone in hand. He leaned close, whispering something. Miss Alina's face went pale, lips tightening into a thin line. She nodded slowly, her hands gripping her napkin so hard the corners crumpled. I saw recognition, fear, flash across her eyes. My stomach dropped. The grandmother was one of Lily's biggest champions. The woman who had taught Lily her first steps, tucked her in at night. If she stiffened at Marcus's words, the secret must be more than just college betrayal. It was deeper, older, something she'd tried to bury. I swallowed, heart pounding as I realized Marcus wasn't simply targeting Daniel. He was dredging up old wounds that had splintered the family long ago. I stepped closer, but Marcus glanced at me with a grin that made my skin crawl. He folded his arms and watched Lily laughing with a cousin across the table. I hesitated. Should I stop him now, before he whispered more poison into my grandmother's ear? My fingers curled around the invitation card paper in my pocket, crumpled but still legible. I felt a sharp tug inside me, the desire to protect Lily, the fear of unleashing a scandal at her luncheon, and the dread that what Marcus had in mind was unstoppable. I had already tried to warn Daniel and been dismissed. Now I stood exposed between Marcus's threats and Lily's innocence, the lunchtime air thick with unspoken tension. I tore my gaze from Marcus and pressed a hand to my chest, breath shallow. The tense laughter felt like a distant echo, and as I stepped back into the shade, tears blurred my vision. I pictured Lily's face when she learned of everything, betrayal, lies, family fractures reopening. I swallowed hard, voice barely more than a whisper. What do I do now? I thought as I moved away from the tent's edge, one step closer to Paolo, one step further from certainty. The ceremony clock ticked down, and everything depended on the choices I made in the next moments. I froze as Lily appeared at the top of the aisle, sunlight glinting off her veil like a halo. My heart felt like it split in two, one half soaring with pride, the other lurching with dread. I'm Alex Carter, 29, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I'd spent all morning convinced I'd stop Marcus Harris before he ruined this day. Now he was sitting with the guests, smug as a cat that's already caught the canary. Lily's dress caught the breeze, and her gaze searched the crowd until it landed on Daniel, who stood at the altar, chest puffed out, smiling like he'd just won the lottery. In that moment, she looked so vulnerable, too trusting, too innocent. Were nearly 100 pairs of eyes fixed on her as she took her first step down the aisle, and I wanted to sprint forward, grab her, and tell her to run. But I was rooted to the grass, paralyzed by panic and guilt. The string quartet's violins quivered through the warm air as Lily glided closer, each step measured, graceful. My palms were slick against my pants, and I felt every bead of sweat racing down my sides. I couldn't look away. Lily's aunt was crying, her cheeks shining with tears of joy. Cousins whispered, pointing at Lily's tiara. I forced my shoulders back, telling myself to stay put, to let the ceremony play out. Marcus wouldn't interrupt now. No, he'd let the moment build until his bombshell would shatter everything. Lily's breath caught as she neared the last row of chairs. Daniel's grin grew wider, and he brushed a stray hair from his face, ready to slip Lily's hand into his. Just as they reached the edge of the carpet, a sharp ripple of commotion came from the back row. Heads turned as Marcus stood, the aisle now a clear path straight to the altar. He looked like a ghost in a linen suit, but his eyes, those pale blue eyes, burned with an icy promise. He held a phone in one hand and a small wireless mic in the other, which he plucked from the efficient stand with the ease of a pickpocket. A collective gasp rose from the guests. Lily's mouth curved into a frozen smile, confusion and fear pooling in her eyes. Daniel blinked, stunned, as whispers rippled through the crowd. I watched from mid-aisle, my knees trembling. Marcus, I mouthed, my voice caught in my throat. He cleared his throat, lifting the mic. Silence descended like a weight, heavier than Charleston's humidity. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus's voice cut through the hush, steady and cold. I'm sure you're all wondering who I am. He pointed the phone at himself, as though filming his grand entrance. My name is Marcus Harris, and I was supposed to stand here as Lily's fiancé years ago, but some people can't handle the truth. My heart slammed against my ribs. Lily's face crumpled with shock, her veil flipped as she shook her head. Daniel's jaw clenched, and his shoulders jerked with a twitch I'd only seen when he was fighting back panic attacks in college. I wanted to jump in, hold Marcus down, anything to stop this. But Marcus's grip on the mic was iron strong, and he scanned the faces, searching. Today's not just about a marriage, Marcus went on, voice rising. It's about a lie, Lily. You deserve to know why I'm here. He raised the phone, holding it like a trophy. I have evidence that Daniel stole my entire startup idea, manipulated you into choosing him, and left me with nothing. The world deserves to know. He swept his gaze over the guests like a shark circling prey. And I'm going live right now. He hit a button on the phone and a small red dot blinked, live streaming. Gasps and murmurs erupted behind me. I felt the carpet ripple underfoot as guests stood, jaws dropping. Lily's gasp became a sob, her free hand pressed to her mouth. Daniel's face went pale, his tie twisted unevenly as he lifted a trembling hand toward her. Everything moved in slow motion after that. I dropped the extra programs clutched in my hand, ignoring the flinch of linen on my fingertips, and sprinted down the aisle. Chairs tipped, shoes scraped on the gravel, but I didn't care. Lily stumbled back as guests stood in her path, blocking any escape. I wove between them, shouting, "Marcus, stop, please." My voice cracked, laced with desperation. Marcus turned, eyes narrowing on me like a predator who'd spotted its last barrier. "Alex Carter," he said, voice dripping with contempt. "Nice of you to join us." He pressed the live button again and the phone camera clicked, capturing everything. I saw my own reflection in the lens, pale, frantic. Behind Marcus, Lily's face broke, tears cutting tracks down her cheeks. The altar, once a symbol of joy, now felt like a battlefield. Daniel stood frozen, mouth opening and closing like a fish. He took a step toward Marcus, then faltered, unsure. I looked around, half expecting security or family to leap forward, but the crowd was paralyzed, eyes wide, cheeks flushed, everyone holding their breath. I charged forward, arms outstretched, willing to tackle Marcus. Broad-shouldered, he didn't move until I was a few feet away. Then he tilted his head, as though amused at my audacity. Lily's voice came from behind me, weak and broken. "Please, Alex." Her plea stabbed me like a knife. She'd asked me to protect her day, now she was asking me to stop destroying it. Marcus's grin widened. "Ah, the protective brother," he said, voice louder now. "But you should have warned her sooner. Now watch." He pressed play on his phone with one thumb and a recorded voice, young Daniel's, smooth and arrogant, filled the garden. "Trust me, Marcus. Your idea's worthless. Lily's family's money will make mine come alive. You'll thank me later." Lily's gasp ripped through the silence. Daniel's face went slack as the revelation hit. My heart shattered. He really had done it. Before I could react, Marcus held up another video clip. "Here's more," he said, voice cold steel. "You think this is bad? Wait until you see how he lied to you about what happened in New York." The broadcast flickered on the guests' faces. Phones rose, capturing every second. Lily's knees buckled. I caught her arm, steadying her. She shook her head, sobs choking her words. Daniel, is it true?" She whispered as the video cut out, silence crashing like thunder. Daniel stepped forward, voice cracking. "Lily, I'm sorry, I never—" He looked around as though seeking permission from the angels. I was desperate. I thought I could fix everything." His apology fell flat against the stunned silence. Marcus snapped the phone closed and pointed it at Daniel. "Speak louder, the world's watching." He turned back to Lily. "Tell us how it feels to have built your life on a lie." I felt tears burn my eyes as the ceremony collapsed into chaos. I looked at Lily, face pale, tears streaking her cheeks, and felt my own chest break. In that moment, I realized some wounds couldn't be stitched closed. Not today. And as Marcus's voice echoed through the garden, streaming to God knows how many strangers, I knew there was no turning back from the catastrophe we'd unleashed. I sank to my knees in the soft grass as Marcus slammed his phone onto a folding chair, the screen cracking under the force. The recording cut off, but the echo of Daniel's voice still clung to the air. "Lily, you have to trust me. Your idea will never be more than his basement project. If I take it, we'll both win." I pressed a hand to my mouth, remembering the shame on my own face when I overheard that years ago, uncertain if I should say anything. Now everyone had heard it too. Lily's sobs were ragged as she stumbled backward, fumbling with the edge of her veil. She turned toward Daniel, eyes hollow and furious, and I felt my heart clench. Daniel's face was ashen, his suit damp with sweat despite the afternoon heat. He tried to step forward, voice failing him. "Lily, please," but she cut him off. "Please, you used me, Daniel," she said, voice trembling so fiercely it felt like a physical force. Her eyes glistened in the sunlight, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. "All these years I thought you loved me. You never loved me, you just wanted his work." Her words landed like blows. A few guests gasped, others gasped and gasped again as though they couldn't quite believe what they were hearing. Daniel's shoulders slumped, his gaze dropped to the grass. I thought I was helping us," he stammered. "I thought," he swallowed, reaching for her, but Lily stepped back, eyes flashing. "Stop, just stop." Her voice was suddenly soft, but sharper than any shout. "I don't want to hear your lies anymore." I felt a hand clamp my shoulder. My mother stood above me, her makeup smudged, eyes rimmed red. She choked back a sob, voice breaking. "Alex," she whispered. "Help her." I pressed my lips together, then forced myself to stand, moving toward Lily as if through water. The officiant's voice boomed somewhere behind us, trying to call for order, but no one listened. Lily's grandmother, Miss Alina, was already half up, clutching her pearls. Her eyes darted between Lily and Daniel, horror etched in every line of her face. I realized for the first time how deeply this fissure cut through the family, how long it had been covered by courtesy and hush. Now it was out in the open, and the tent felt miles away. Daniel whispered something, an apology, and I saw tears gather on his lashes, but the guests weren't interested in excuses. Someone shouted, "Shame!" and others echoed, Shame on you, Daniel. Hair scraped against the gravel as people got to their feet, a wave of anger rippling through the crowd. I saw cousins sending pitying looks toward Lily, aunts shaking their heads at Daniel, uncles whispering behind their hands. I edged closer to Lily, unsure if she wanted comfort. Her shoulders shook as she reached up, smoothing her hair, as though to erase every memory of the man she thought she loved. I swallowed, fighting down the anger I felt toward Daniel, for lying, for hurting her, for fracturing our family. But even anger felt hollow compared to the hurt in Lily's eyes. Marcus, standing a few feet away, watched in silence, phone dangling from his fingers. His face was tight, unyielding. He hadn't expected celebration. He'd come here expecting to destroy. As he turned to leave, I nearly called out, something like, "Please stay," or "What have you done?" But he didn't look back. His steps were measured as he left the tent and slipped down the garden path, phone still in hand. Crowd parting instinctively. I felt a hand on my shoulder again, this time Daniel's. He knelt in front of Lily, hands outstretched as though begging. "Lily, I'm so sorry," he said, voice cracking. "I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could build something of worth for us. I thought I was wrong. Please believe me. Believe you." Lily's voice was hollow, distant. "You lied, Daniel. You lied to me about everything. I trusted you more than anyone." She pressed a hand to her heart as though trying to stop it. "I loved you." Guests shifted, leaning in as if they could catch every syllable. I wanted to take her hand, to pull her away from him, but I stayed still, letting her make her own stand. He nodded, tears glinting. "I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Lily shook her head, stepping back. "Save it. You broke me. You broke all of us." She turned, hands clenching the bouquet at her waist. I saw her eyes flick to me, pained, uncertain. I walked to her side and gently touched her arm. "We'll figure this out," I whispered. She leaned into me for a moment, then straightened. She didn't look at Daniel again. Daniel's shoulders sagged as he rose, every inch the defeated man. The officiant had abandoned his post entirely, standing off to the side, clutching his book, face pale. The guests, too, parted to give Daniel space. I watched him stumble down the aisle, each step slower than the last. Behind him, Lily's grandmother was handing her a tissue, tears streaming. I stayed close to Lily as she crossed the aisle backward, away from Daniel and toward the tent. Every whisper seemed louder now. Who knew? How long? Poor Lily. My chest tightened. I'd felt powerless when Marcus first appeared. Now I felt powerless as Lily retreated from the wreckage. Marcus paused at the tent flap, hands stuffed into his pockets, watching the chaos he'd unleashed. I met his gaze for a moment, hatred, grief, not just for Lily but for the brother who'd failed to protect her. He gave a slight nod, then turned and disappeared around the side of the house, phone in hand. No look back, no satisfaction in seeing us crumble, just leaving. Lily slipped into the tent, my arm around her shoulders as she sank onto a bench, face buried in her hands. I knelt beside her, wiping her tears with the same tissue from her grandmother. She trembled, and her breath shuddered. I felt the enormity of what Marcus had done start to settle in my chest. Today was meant to be perfect. Instead, it was a battleground where love was torn to pieces. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We'll get through this," I said, voice raw. She looked at me, anger and sorrow warring in her eyes, and I wondered if I knew there would be no simple fix. Outside, guests milled about, some clustered in hushed conversations, others staring at Lily as though she were a fallen queen. Daniel had vanished into the house, leaving behind a legacy of lies. I looked at Lily, needing to be strong for her, but every part of me felt shattered. And as I watched her lift her head, tears stained on her cheeks but eyes fierce with hurt, I realized what Marcus had truly done. He'd pulled back the curtain on all our lives, and now we were left in the wreckage, unprepared for whatever happened next. The reception tent stood silent, as though someone had cut the music mid-note. "I'm Alex Carter, 29, from Charleston, South Carolina, and I'd never seen a wedding wreckage like this." Tables lay overturned, crimson napkins crushed beneath overturned chairs, and bouquets lay scattered, petals trampled into the grass. A half-eaten slice of cake sat face down on a guest's lavender napkin. Everywhere I looked, whispers and gasps ricocheted off the marquee's torn canvas. I found Lily seated at the head table, her fingers wrapped tightly around an empty glass. Her pale cheeks glistened with tears. Her white gown was streaked with dirt and wine. I stared at the empty aisle as if hoping Daniel would reappear. I knelt beside her, feeling the ache in my chest deepen. My sister had lost so much in one afternoon. "Lily," I whispered, sliding my arm around her trembling shoulders. She didn't look at me. There was a distance in her eyes I'd never seen before, as if the world had shifted under her feet. Her voice came out in a low, broken note. "They're all staring, Alex. I feel like a zoo animal, broken and shamed." Glanced at the guests clustered in small groups, eyes flicking toward her out of pity or gossip. Some had their phones out, capturing photos they'd post before the sun set. "I know," I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. "But their stares don't matter. You're still my sister. We'll figure this out." My words felt hollow even as I spoke them. How could I promise her anything when the foundation of her life had crumbled? She brushed a blue-black strand of hair behind her ear, eyes burning with bitter anger. "Figure this out. Daniel used me, Alex. He used everyone." Her voice trembled with rage and sorrow entwined. How could I not see it? How did I miss all the signs? I closed my eyes, recalling Daniel's tearful apologies, his half-hearted pleas before he fled. You didn't miss anything. He lied to you, he lied to all of us. You trusted him because you loved him. I reached for her hand, squeezing it. It's not your fault. A stranger approached, one of Lily's college friends, carrying her wedding bouquet, now drooped and broken. The friend's voice was quiet, unsure. Lily, would you like some water? She held out a bottle, hand shaking. Lily took it without looking up, and her hand trembled so hard I thought the bottle might slip. I stood and took a deep breath. I'm going to check on Mom and Dad. They are in the house. Lily nodded, still staring at the empty aisle as if expecting something to change. I walked through the grass, crunching under overturned chairs toward the edge of the big house where our parents waited. Inside, Mom sat on the couch, face buried in a lace handkerchief. Dad leaned over her, head bowed, shoulders heavy. I knelt in front of them. Mom looked up, her eyes red and swollen. We tried, Alex, we didn't see it coming. Her voice cracked. Dad's jaw was tight as he wiped his wife's tears with trembling fingers. I swallowed and forced a small nod. He was good at hiding it. Conrad helped him build that business from scratch. No one saw the betrayal coming once they both moved to New York. I paused, remembering the years of pride when Daniel's company was featured in local papers. They wanted the best for Lily, we all did. I placed my hand over both their hands. We'll get through this, Lily's strong. Dad exhaled a long, shuddering breath. She's going to hurt so badly, Alex. What do we do now? I closed my eyes. We stay with her. Remind her she's not alone. I stood, and Dad reached out, pulling me into a brief hug. His embrace was warm but brittle. Back outside, the sky had darkened slightly, clouds drifting in like silent witnesses. I wandered toward the garden path, thinking of what else might lie ahead. I rounded the corner and saw Marcus Harris leaning against the fence where he'd first appeared, cast in shadow as if he'd never left. He held his phone, screen dark, as though waiting for something. He looked up and caught my eye. For a moment our gazes locked, his pale blue eyes clear as ice, daring me to judge him. I swallowed hard, rage and pity warping my chest. Marcus, I said, voice quiet but firm. He didn't move. I took a step closer. You did what you came here to do. His lips twitched, no smile, no regret. Yes, he said, voice low, I did. He shifted, hands slipping into his pockets. The breeze buffeted his linen jacket, making him look almost spectral. I felt a surge of anger and fear. You ruined her wedding. You humiliated her in front of everyone. How is this justice? My voice shook, actual tears pricking my eyes. He stared at me, expression unmoved. Finally, he spoke. Justice? No, she should have known. She should have stood up for me when I needed her. Daniel never deserved her. I clenched my jaw. So you destroyed her happiness. His face hardened. She chose him. She chose his lies. He paused, as though searching for words. I wanted her to see, to feel the betrayal. Maybe now she'll forgive me. His voice cracked, revealing a fracture I'd never known existed. I shook my head, disbelief swirling. You think this will fix anything? It'll just leave scars. He looked at me then, a mix of triumph and sadness in his eyes. I'm ready for the scars. I swallowed. You're not a hero, Marcus. You're just another man who let anger destroy him. He took a step back, face stony. Goodbye, Alex. He turned and walked away, phone in hand, silhouette slinking down the garden path. I watched him go, empty dread twisting in my gut. On my phone, a new message appeared. I opened it and felt my heart stop. I did what I had to. Now everyone can pick up the pieces. No signature, just that. My breath caught. Lily's laughter once filled this garden. Now it echoed with silence. I pocketed the phone and looked toward the darkening sky, wondering what had become of love, trust, and family. The world felt different now, fractured, uncertain, and I wasn't sure how to mend it. It's been 3 weeks since the worst day of my life. Lily's wedding unraveling like a rope, burning at both ends. And I'm staring out at the cracked sidewalk in front of our parents' house in Charleston, South Carolina, watching Lily's car pull up. I'm Alex Carter, 29, and every time I think I've breathed through the worst of it, my chest still tightens with the memory of Daniel's betrayal. Today, Lily's coming to talk. I can't tell if I'm ready. The front door swings open, and Lily steps onto the porch, shoulders squared, jaw set. Her hair hangs loose around her face, still carrying a few strands of the veil she wore that day. She presses her lips together, eyes dark and determined. I step forward, heart pounding, and she meets my gaze without flinching. I'm here, she says, voice low, controlled. I need to talk. Her resolve strikes me like a wave. I step aside, so she can slip into the living room where Mom sits sewing a quilt. Her fingers moving almost automatically, eyes red. Dad's in his recliner, staring at the floor as though he can't look up. Lily closes the door behind her and stands for a moment in the middle of the room, framed by the late afternoon light through the windows. Everything feels heavy, the same way it did on her ruined wedding day. I pull out the love seat and pat the cushion beside me. She hesitates a second, then sits, knees together, hands clasped in her lap. The quilt's bright colors feel too cheerful for today. I lean forward, elbows on my knees. How are you holding up? I ask, voice rough. She takes a breath, searching for words. Alex, I'm angry most of the time, she says, eyes flicking to Mom's quilt. But I'm done crying. I've spent the last few weeks replaying every moment, wondering how I missed the signs. She tilts her head back and closes her eyes for a second. I've decided I'm not going to let Daniel's lies define me anymore. I nod, relief and pride mixing in my chest. I'm glad. She opens her eyes, and I see that fierce light I loved so much as a kid. I have to rebuild my life without him. I know now that love built on lies can't stand. I won't go back to that. Her conviction humbles me. I reach out and take her hand. Whatever you need, I'm here. She squeezes my hand, then releases it and looks toward the front window where the sun is slipping behind the oaks. Daniel came by a few days ago, she says, voice steady. He left a note and a gift, flowers of all things. She laughs bitterly. I threw them in the trash. My heart sinks. What did he say? Lily's lips curve into a sad smile. He admitted it all, how he manipulated me, how he stole Marcus's idea, everything. He said he's sorry and wants me back. She shrugs like it doesn't matter. But I told him I can't trust him. I told him I need time, maybe forever. I exhale, feeling her strength. You did the right thing. She looks down at her hands, breathing out a shaky breath. I'm scared, Alex. I thought I could forgive him, but I realized I don't want to spend my life doubting every word he says. She looks at me and I feel the weight of her trust. Thank you for always watching my back. I swallow, voice tightening. I'd move mountains for you. She stands, smoothing her dress. I know, now I have something I want to show you. She pulls out her phone and opens a Reddit thread, r/true off my chest. I lean in as she scrolls to her own post. Idle bold. My wedding day exploded. Here's how I'm picking up the pieces. Her post starts with her telling the raw version. The joy she felt walking down the aisle, the shock when Marcus burst in, Daniel's betrayal, and how she's piecing her life back together one day at a time. It's honest and raw, and I feel tears prick my eyes reading her words. People are responding, Lily says, voice cracking slightly. They're sharing their stories, ex-wives, siblings, anyone who's been betrayed. They're offering advice, just being there. She taps a comment, you deserve better, keep your head up. Then another, I know how you feel, my partner cheated on me at our wedding. She scrolls more, smiling faintly. It helps, Alex, knowing I'm not alone. I lean back, letting her words settle. Outside, the cicadas hum and the sun dips lower. I feel the tension easing, replaced by cautious hope. But then my phone buzzes in my pocket. I slip it out and see an unknown number. Do not look for me, I'm gone. 4 simple words, no signature. Marcus. I close my eyes, a knot forming in my chest. Relief warps into unease. I flip my phone over and push it into my pocket without a word. Lily looks at me, brow furrowing. What is it? I swallow, forcing a calm I don't feel. It's nothing, I say, trying to smile. Just things settling down. She nods, but I see her worry in her eyes. We sit in silence for a moment, a family quilt draped over Mom's rocking chair, the last rays of sunlight painting the walls gold. Lily taps her phone, closing the Reddit thread with a sigh. People here are so kind, she says. It's giving me strength. She looks at me and I feel the bond between us, scars and all. I take a breath. You have more strength than you know. She stands, shoulders straight. I'm ready to move forward, she says. Thank you, Alex. She gives me a quick hug, one that's warm but contains years of pain. I watch her walk to the door, fade down the porch steps, disappear into the twilight. The house feels emptier now, a mix of loss and possibility hanging in the air. I step onto the porch, phone heavy in my pocket, and stare out at the backyard where so many memories, good and bad, lurk in the shadows. Marcus's message burns in my mind. I'm gone. Part of me is relieved he's not lurking behind every corner. Another part wonders if this silence means he's planning something worse. I slip my phone back into my pocket and close my eyes, letting the humid night air wash over me. Inside, the lights are soft, homie, but this house will never feel the same. I think of Lily's Reddit post, her courage to share her pain with strangers. I wonder who will read it next, who will offer comfort, who will remind her she's not alone. And as I stand there in the fading light, the weight of everything settles on me. The wedding is over, Marcus is gone, Daniel is forgiven only by his own remorse, maybe, and Lily's on her way to healing. But the echoes of betrayal linger, and I know we'll carry them forward, even as we rebuild. Tonight, nothing is certain except that the next chapter will be written in our own blood, sweat, and stubborn hope.